So last week, news broke from Pfizer with the company announcing that their COVID vaccine could be up to 90% effective. And this week, it was Moderna announcing that their vaccine could be up to 94.5% effective. The Lynn Institute here in Oklahoma hosting trials for both of these vaccines. Joining me now is Carlos Blanco. He is CEO of the Lynn Institute. Good to talk to you. 2 weeks in a row here, 2 weeks of good news. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jason.
Absolutely. So before we get to this latest news, as I mentioned, you're hosting trials for both companies. Where are those trials taking place?
Well, those trials are taking place right here in Oklahoma City and in Norman, Oklahoma. Now, I've got to make sure that your viewers know that both those trials have concluded enrolling patients for the trials, but we have additional trials for new vaccines that are coming on board within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, yeah, good to know there. So we got Pfizer last week, Moderna this week, effectiveness rate on the Moderna vaccine, more than 94% here. Tell us what's so promising about the Moderna vaccine.
Well, it's just, these results are just, they're just amazing. With the Pfizer data coming in and now the Moderna coming in at 94.5 effectiveness, those are outstanding results. It's also important to note that the data suggests that in the few cases where the vaccine did prevent an infection of COVID-19 from happening, it appears to have significantly lessened the severity of the infection. And that's very promising because not only does the vaccine have the potential to keep you from catching COVID-19, if you did happen to catch it, it may lessen the severity. And that's very promising.
Yeah, that would be good news for a lot of people here. Is that Moderna vaccine that much better than Pfizer's, or is it not that simple in terms of the comparison?
It's probably not that simple. Right now we just have early data from both Pfizer and Moderna. They show to be very promising, but I don't think you can say the one is necessarily better than the other one. One of the advantages that Moderna vaccine will have is it doesn't have to be kept in the ultra cold temperatures that the Pfizer vaccine has to be kept at. So you can envision a situation where, in terms of distribution, we might use the Moderna vaccine in rural communities that wouldn't have those ultra low temperature freezers, and maybe the Pfizer in a more metropolitan setting.
And yeah, that cold storage issue has come up here a lot. Why do these vaccines have to be kept so cold? And what is it with the Pfizer vaccine? It has to be kept at, I think it's minus 70 degrees Celsius, which is colder than the average winter in Antarctica. Why is there that difference here between the vaccines and their storage?
Well, it's just a function of the way the vaccines are created. It's an accepted that with these new mRNA technology requires cold temperatures. It just happens the Pfizer is a colder temperature than the Moderna.
So when this process is said and done, will there be two competing vaccines on the market? Will you get a chance to choose one over the other? I know you mentioned the Moderna vaccine being used in more rural areas. What will that look like? Will people get a chance to choose?
I don't think that's going to be I don't think we're going to have the option of choosing vaccines. I think what's just going to be important is that we get a vaccine. Given the numbers of vaccines that need to be produced, and we're talking 320 million doses just in the U.S., probably close to 5.5 billion doses around the world. It's just going to be important that we get a vaccine, not necessarily the choice between vaccines.
What will distribution look like here? It seems like it's going to be a bit of an issue, I would say, for these vaccines. What is the government going to have to do to meet that challenge, to make sure everybody that wants a vaccine is going to have access to it?
That is a huge challenge. So if you think of these challenges, it's sort of like climbing a mountain. First, we had to develop a vaccine that was going to be effective and efficacious, and it appears that we have done that. Next, we have the issue of producing enough vaccine to be able to distribute. Challenge after that will be to be able to distribute the vaccine effectively throughout the U.S. and eventually the world. And lastly, to be able to convince folks to get vaccinated. That's going to be the last crucial step that's going to be critical. If we don't get enough people vaccinated, we're not going to get past this pandemic.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be an obstacle here in terms of getting people convinced that they should take this vaccine. I mean, what is there going to have to be a public awareness campaign, or what has to happen to convince people that the vaccine is safe? Because some people are skeptical.
They are indeed. And, unfortunately, we've had the development of these drugs has been politicized fairly significantly, and that's been unfortunate because, as I've mentioned before, the process for developing these drugs, and certainly the clinical trials, the process hasn't been shortened at all. There's no shortcuts that have been taken. We should trust these vaccines once they're approved by the FDA. So I think you're right. We're going to have some sort of campaign. We're going to have to make sure that both political parties stand behind this vaccine. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to do to be able to bring back that trust to the American public to take these vaccines.
Okay, so this data has come out here. What happens next? What's the next immediate step here? What deadlines should we be looking out for in the coming days when it comes to the eventual approval of these vaccines?
Sure. Well, the next thing we're looking for is for Pfizer's submission to the FDA for the emergency use approval. Within probably several weeks of that, you will note that Moderna will probably turn around and do exactly the same thing, file for that approval. And then it'll be up to the FDA to review that data, make sure that there is, one, enough of the data, and two, that it shows that it's safe and that it does indeed work like the manufacturers are claiming that it does.
And so we kind of talked about the deadline or the rollout the last time we spoke in terms of who would get it first, but the earliest you could see people getting this vaccine in terms of healthcare workers, frontline workers, is next month, correct?
Yes. I think I think Secretary Azar has commented now multiple times that he believes that the first to be vaccinated in mid to late December are going to be the most vulnerable patients, followed by the frontline workers, and then eventually followed by the just general public, probably around March.
Okay, so next spring before most of us would have access to this vaccine.
Yes,
how promising is all of this? I mean, a lot of people are hoping for an end to this pandemic in 2021. Do you think that this has the possibility of doing that?
Yes, sir. I think it is the answer. Obviously, we can't continue on the path we're going now. We need something else, and the vaccine is clearly the way to go. And I think, one of the things that gets lost in this entire process is how amazing it is for us to go from January of having this pandemic develop to having a vaccine available by December. That's just a huge accomplishment for our scientific community and really for all humanity. It's just outstanding. It's amazing.
Yeah, agree there. Carlos Blanco with the Lynn Institute. Love that this work is being done partially here in Oklahoma. Please keep us updated on any future developments as this vaccine development continues here.
Thank you, Jason. We'll do so.
Absolutely. Jonathan, let's get over to you.